Joined now by Kerry Haigh, Championships Officer for the PGA of America. Kerry, we appreciate you stopping by. I know Kyle has some questions about the Ryder Cup, but let's start with the here and now in this week. How important is it to your role and the focus that you have throughout the entire year?
Well, Joe, this is a great week for us to continue and start our planning. It's a great opportunity from our colleagues from around the world who come here. And what better way and place to meet than here in Orlando in January, out of the snow, and obviously working towards what is going to be a very exciting and busy 2023.
We've talked to a lot of PGA of America officials, and the consensus is that PGA of America thinks a lot about the non-professional, right? The non-Spieth, JT, Rory, those guys, just the common person that plays golf, like me. You kind of have a foot in both worlds. I'm curious about how you take the service of people like me and apply it to your job in the setting up PGA Championships, setting up the Ryder Cup. Is there anything you can learn from a place like this where there's not very many kind of professional golfers running around?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think setting up the golf course, I always do it as if it's the same way I would actually for a recreational golfer, believe it or not, in that I think some of the challenges that you find on a golf course and some of the things that everyday golfers enjoy or are challenged by are the same things that the best players in the world are challenged by. And certainly bringing those aspects of any golf course out for a golfer is something that I try and do with my everyday golfer's hat on in setting up a golf course.
What's the most challenging type of hole to set? Like if you were going to set up a hole, what's the most challenging type of hole that you would set up?
I think so much on any setup is dependent on the weather and the wind. And certainly that is the thing you've got to bear in mind. If you've got a 20 or 30 mile an hour wind blowing in a certain direction, you've got to try and think again as how the golfer would play it, what challenges that wind creates, and then try and set it up so it's still a challenge, but it's fair and reasonable, even if it's really difficult. That's okay, but kind of keep that golfer's mindset when you're setting any golf course up.
We know that preparations for these tournaments, they start years in advance and really ramp up the Monday after that Wanamaker Trophy is raised. Where are you at in those preparations right now for this year's PGA Championship? What are the current things in your email inbox that you're having to deal with?
Well, Oak Hill is obviously a great venue, great community, but it's in May, and we actually signed the agreement with Oak Hill shortly after the last championship, at which time the championship was going to be played in August. Now we moved the date in 2019 to May, so with that we brought some weather challenges, and as a result of that we actually started the construction of our tents in November and brought the team in to put the scaffolding down for about 3 weeks or a month, so that when we start normally, which will be the middle of February, they will be above the snow and be able to build the tents, even if it is snowing and even if there is a couple of feet of snow. So in that regard, it's unique and different. It's the first time we've had to do that or tried to do that. To get us ahead of schedule so that it won't slow everything or stop everything, which would be the case if we have 2 feet of snow on the ground in February or March, which could well happen. So that's our primary goal, and we're going to start building again in February, middle of February, and finish up through May.
If I think wind, we would say, is the most challenging or one of the most challenging things for pros to deal with. We'll talk about weather. I think wind is up there. What are a couple of other things that, because some of these pros, if you drop them on a flat course with no wind, they're going to shoot
game over.
60. They're going to shoot 61, whatever. So what are the other things, not even that are man-made, but just elements, different things that they have to deal with that irritate them the most, that frustrate them the most?
Well, I think any championship, recreational golfer, best golfers in the world, nobody likes bad weather, right? And suspensions. slow play.
Yeah.
So I would certainly put bad weather and slow play up among the most frustrating things for any golfer. But the most challenging certainly are if it gets really dry and firm.
Yeah.
Not just, wind obviously is a factor, but if there's no wind and it's really firm and fast, it can get very challenging and tricky as well. Now, that's not normally something we have in May, but you never know. You've got to be prepared to adapt depending on where you are and what Mother Nature sends you.
Yeah. I thought just to follow up on that, I don't know anything about course architecture, so take this with a grain of salt. I thought the best setup that I've ever covered, I've been covering golf for 10 years now, was Kiowa in 2021. I mean, just the way it almost told, and I don't know if you're trying to do this, it almost told a story as the week went on, where it kind of built up to the weekend. Is that something that, do you think about that, or are you just like, okay, today we're putting the pin here?
No, certainly I think a great question. I do try and have a different philosophy for the weekends little to the first two championship rounds. But in Kiowa's case specifically, obviously there are little or no trees out there. There's a lot of water, a lot of trouble. But it's the wind that has so much influence on it. And, although it was, some people were sort of scared about it, we had a total shift of the wind between Saturday and, Thursday through Saturday was one direction. Sunday was the totally opposite direction. The great news is I spend a lot of time every day with the weather team who we have on site. So we sort of knew this was probably coming. So in fairness, had some time to think about what we'd be doing with the tees, certainly, and the hole locations. So it ended up being that on Sunday. The wind switched, 180 degrees. We had to make basically 14 tee changes out of the 18 holes. But it turned out to be a great test of golf. You had the downwind holes that we played full length. The into the wind we had to adjust, and we ended up with a great championship, great finish, and a great champion.
Yeah,
you're really to go off of Kyle's metaphor, maybe offering a canvas for the game's artists to paint on, and an individual event is one thing. How does your job differ when we start talking about team events like the Ryder Cup?
Yeah, the Ryder Cup is different in that the home captain has influence on how they want to have the golf course set up. So Whistling Straits, for example, I work closely with Steve prior to the week of. During the week of, they have no influence anymore.
Okay.
But prior to, if they want the speed of the greens, width of the fairways, if they want to add bunker, which tees to use, they can sort of dictate or, how we set up, work with the superintendent, or I work with the superintendent. And similarly in Rome this year, their captain, Luke Donald, has the same influence that he can have on the speed, the width of the fairways, speed of the greens, height of the rough. And but the week of, it's actually a joint arrangement. We have someone from the PGA of America, someone from Ryder Cup Europe, who actually set the hole locations and set the tees. So a lot of influence, but difference from our standpoint in what our involvement. And
is it difficult for you, I don't know, way here, like we're getting ready for Rome, to maybe not be a part of that collaboration?
It's different. I think, we're certainly the eyes and ears and try and relay and help our captain, we help Zach in this case, what we think is going to happen, where we think the hole locations are going to be. Based on history, likely what the rough will be and how it will play. So we were there the year to go with Zach, and he played the course, and kind of we talked about the whole locations that likely might be used. Just from my experience, and there's only so many hole locations you can have on a green. So it's fun, but it's different, and that's part of what makes the Ryder Cup so special and so exciting.
I think you have such an interesting job that probably a lot of people that even watch the PGA Championship or the Ryder Cup don't really know about. A lot of people do. A lot of people that I talk to, talk about how good you are at your job. What do you wake up in the morning thinking about? Like, what drives you in your career as you kind of think about how it's unfolded?
I think the number one thing is that hopefully we're not part of the talk of the competition. That it's the golf course and it's the players. They are the competition. They are what make it exciting. And I look at my job as to give them the canvas that they can showcase their skills and hopefully help produce, excitement, fun, challenges, strategy, and all the things that go into bringing out the best in any golf course. And if it can do that, make the players think, bring out the challenges of a golf course, and then Mother Nature thrown in, and with a bit of variety, with some tees, hole locations, hopefully we can create an exciting championship that people talk about forever. And our aim every year is to make the next one even better than the last one. So we can't wait for Oak Hill to hopefully crown a great champion and have a great championship.
I don't think I've ever asked you this, but what's one golf course, take infrastructure out of it, take the PGA's relationships out of it, just you as a golfer, what's one golf course that you would love to take a championship to and be able to set up in a way that would be interesting that you might just not have? Like somewhere like Bandon, there's you can't have a PGA championship there because you don't have the infrastructure, right? So take all that out. What's one course that you would like to be able to set up for a Ryder Cup or a PGA?
Wow, there's so many great golf courses, I'm not quite sure which one I would choose, but Cypress Point is a incredible golf course, and that would be sort of cool. But I always say, wherever we're playing, it's our job to make that the best golf course and the most fun and the most interesting. So I look at it that way. Everyone has its own unique challenges and strategy, and let's bring out everything we can in that course.
And I know you look at it that way professionally, but personally, do you ever have a hard time turning it off, just being a golfer on the course? I know when I don't like a pin placement, I couldn't imagine your perspective on that.
Yeah, well, you certainly observe and hopefully learn from what you observe and when you play, and hopefully for the better of everyone when I set up.
Most certainly. Well, Kerry, we appreciate you stopping by here on CBS Sports, taking the time. Looking forward to an exciting season ahead.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.